Odyssey.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Business Scene on the Tulsa Scene podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Brittany Harlow, owner, founder, journalist, verifiednews.network. You've heard me talk about it in the past a little. We're a non-traditional news network, which is essentially a hybrid of social media and news media. We have a very special guest with us today. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? I'll go ahead and just throw you in the spotlight. She is our intern from Northeastern State University, Mackenzie. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. My name is Mackenzie A-Strike. My last name does look a little funny. It looks like ostrich, but it's pronounced A-Strike. And I'm a senior at Northeastern State University in Tahlequah. I am majoring in media studies with an emphasis in public relations, and I also have a major or a minor in communication as well. My plans for after that is to move to Tulsa and get a job and hopefully stay working with BNN.
That is right. And so Mackenzie's been with us since January, so whatever month it is, almost April, going into 4 months. It does not seem like that. She's been instrumental, and especially a big part of what we're going to talk to today, a little side as far as marketing and, you know, who we are, being a social news media network. Obviously, we target a younger audience, but really we kind of evolved into that. Like, we didn't necessarily start out saying we want to target millennials and Gen Z. It was really, we had a mission and still have a mission to provide verified news and information to people who want to receive it. And so I don't want to get into the nitty gritty of news right now, because obviously everyone has an opinion on the news industry. And, you know, one of the biggest things that we try to do is fix the news industry and kind of do our part to make it better. And what can we do to make news better for everyone? But, you know, a lot of people really aren't receptive to change. Through our market research and other kinds of just general research, we found out that Gen Z and millennials, that's kind of like a secondary audience, really are the most receptive and appreciative of what we're doing as a news network. And so that's not to say that, like, you know, we still don't welcome everyone. Anyone that wants verified news and information is welcome to be here. But through that, and that's been, Mackenzie has been a huge help. We had been on Facebook, and of course, in addition to our own platform, which we have on Android and iOS, as far as kind of using those social media networks to our advantage. But one thing that we haven't really tapped into, and that we've been working on since we got Mackenzie on, is tapping into that Instagram and tapping into Snapchat and those types of platforms that aren't just Gen Z and millennials, but make up a good part of it. And so Mackenzie, like, just even Instagram alone has changed so much. Like, I don't even consider myself like an older person, but I feel old when I say that, like, Instagram's changed a lot since I was poking around. It's not just pictures anymore.
Yeah,
so like, what's going on? How, like, complex is this platform now?
Yeah, so it's kind of funny because whenever I first got onto Instagram, it was like this whole new thing, you know, and it was just about sharing pictures. Then we got Snapchat, and then we got TikTok. And so everybody wanted to use the story, you know, the story feature, the up for 24 hours. And then now we're seeing a huge push into small videos with Reels and IGTVs, and even on Facebook, like with the Facebook Watch. I know for me, I will sit there and watch like my old Dr. Phil shows or whatever, just because they post up new episodes and stuff like that. So people are really wanting to watch videos and short clips and stuff that is more than just a picture.
Right. And so obviously we had a lot of learning to do, and we're not going to be, this is not what this episode is even about. This episode, it's kind of like what we've been talking about as a segue into this Gen Z. I expect to grow in this endeavor that we're doing for the next 10, 20 years. And how cool would it be for this audience to grow with me? Because, in 10, 20 years, they're going to be the age that I am now. And I feel like if we're going to really instill change and really be looking at those long-term goals, then younger audiences should definitely be a part of what you're trying to reach. And so our episode today is mainly dealing with Gen Z and trends. We're going to be leaning on some research provided by Global Web Index, who I won't be obviously reading this whole 30-page report, but I'll just be kind of giving you some insights into Gen Z. So if you are trying to target, and some of these I align with, even if I'm not necessarily Gen Z, I believe from what my research said that Gen Z is about mid-1990s to, I think, I don't want to say it's all now, but I would say onward to, I think it said 2010, somewhere around there. So that 10, 15 years span. And so Mackenzie's a great, she's going to be like kind of my sounding board and laying in with some opinion as well, because technically, according to her birthday, she is not technically a millennial. She is in that Gen Z category, but as far as kind of aligning with characteristics, and she's a little bit of an older soul, as we
definitely.
And so one thing that I wanted to talk about, which is kind of like the key insights into Gen Z, if you're trying to reach those 1990, mid 1990s. So I guess that is, I from what I've read and understand, that the Gen Z is within the last, they're in there, I want to say like 25, like not to throw you under the bus or anything as far as your age, but how old are you, Mackenzie?
I'm 22.
22. Okay. And so I believe technically from my understanding that it's like 25 and younger is considered Gen Z. And then probably about, I would say around that age and older would fall under the millennial category. And so when we're talking about Gen Z, we're talking about those young 20 somethings and those teens. And so, and it's kind of like, I don't know if I'm just like the only grown up out here that just thinks like I am young. Like I still like feel like maybe I'm close to like a teen, and then, or like in early 20s, like I'm not that different than I was back then. And then of course I see like younger people and I'm like, yeah, wow, I'm not really, some ways I feel like a teenager still, but I guess I'm definitely not. And I am in fact a grown up, but so we have some cool key insights for Gen Z. And the not most surprising to me, but as far as like knowing people that are younger, but just kind of surprising in general that this generation is known for it, but being driven and altruistic. And so these are highly motivated individuals that really want to do good. And so Mackenzie, would you kind of agree with that statement?
Absolutely. I mean, you look at, like, I even think of like Twitter feeds, and everybody wants to support. It's a huge push for local businesses now, and a huge push for really getting to know who is behind the business. And I also read something about like that, how driven Gen Z is, and everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. They don't really want to work under anybody else, and they want to do their own thing. And they are driven in that aspect, in the fact that they want this world to be a better place. And that's
the environment. Yeah.
Absolutely.
You see that
and
a lot.
That's where you see like the environmental pushes, and like the cleaning out the oceans, and really doing good for the world for future generations. And that's like a really big push now.
And kind of tying into it, and what is that? And obviously, like this, as I mentioned, it's a 30-page report. I will share it in the comments when we post this podcast so that you can take a look, or the link to where you can download it yourself. But what does that mean for a business? Well, that means that if you are trying to get Gen Z, if you're trying to even get millennials, because as a millennial, this is important to me. If your message and your behaviors don't line up with me as a person, I don't want to spend my money with you. I would rather spend more money with someone that I know is doing good in the world or putting out a positive message and just has the vibes that I appreciate instead of someone else. Like that will definitely drive my decisions. And that's even more for Gen Z. And so it kind of, forces us all as businesses to explore, okay, well, what message am I sending out? What good am I doing in the world? What can I tell people to get to know me on a personal level? Would you say that that is pretty true for you, Mackenzie, as far as being good people?
Yeah, absolutely. And I really consider myself like a zennial. Like I'm in the middle. I I sometimes like relate to Gen Z, but then I'm like, I'm more of like a millennial in that aspect. And so yeah, it's more about, I think now, personal connections. And I mean, people want to know, like people want to know about you. People want to know about your business, and people will support, people will support that because they it makes them feel good and they want to truly make a difference in the world.
Another thing, another key insight that this piece, this research product talks about is that they are plugged into technology, but they are willing to unplug. And that to me was surprising because you hear like all the talk about how addicted everyone is to social media, and these younger people, they all only care about their, electronics or whatever, their devices. But I think that they have grown up in the age of technologies that they are comfortable with using it. But that doesn't mean that they won't shut everything off and take a break. And so to me, that says that they are paying attention and that they are really kind of being responsible as far as in being looped in to what is going on around them, and willing to, like, yeah, technology is great, but I'm not willing to jeopardize my well-being for that. And so I think that also kind of speaks to the intelligence of Gen Z and the interests that they have and how important that is, and that they're conscious of screen time and also privacy. And you might even see them kind of, pulling back on their privacy and not wanting to share as much just because they're so cognizant of that reality. So
absolutely. And I also think that self-care has become a huge thing now. Is you have to unplug, you have to take time for yourself and self-care. And that really, like, that shows how really hopefully in tune everybody is, with their bodies and with themselves.
Another couple of staples here as far as these insights that we're learning about is that, and this was a surprise to me too. And so if you're in the gaming industry, it's a great surprise. But for me in general, it was interesting to find out that this research says 94% of all Gen Zs are playing games on their devices. And so they're very into gaming, whatever like gaming that, and I mean, I used to play video games when I had time. Now I don't have time to do that anymore. I still have a couple of video game consoles, but I certainly don't play on my phone. But apparently that's very popular right now. And that is a great way to reach Gen Z. If you're not reaching them and you want to be, figure out what kind of games they're into, because apparently 94% of all Gen Zers are playing some kind of game on a device. So are you a millennial there or a Gen Zer there? Oh, you play
it's actually funny because I literally just got a Nintendo Switch, like just like maybe a month ago, 2 months ago, and I've been
Cool.
playing Animal Crossing, and so like that's the kind of like games like I'm more of like a can I play with my friends? Can I connect with them in that way? And like it's kind of like an escape for me, just kind of get out of like this reality kind of.
Yeah, that's true. Now that you say that, like there was a couple years ago when I was really, and I like for right now, if I was to play any game, it would be a trivia game because I love trivia. And so it was that game that I can't even remember the name of it, but it would like go off at certain times of the day, and like all of our friends would play at the same time. And so I never won, so that's probably why I don't play that game anymore. A couple more things. They're changing social media. No surprise there because they drive the trends. And if there's anything that indicates that demand drives change, it is social media and what people want and what people like. And those are driving those decisions. And the last key insight, and I really thought that I was going to get through a lot more, but that just goes to show you, like, this is just touching the surface of Gen Z. And even I had this, one thing about me, I'm fully transparent, 100%. I'm probably over transparent to the point that it's like, why are you telling people this? They don't need to know that. But I was a little hesitant to give this research away because it's like, I want to target Gen Z for our business because I feel like it's so important for what we're doing. And I don't want to give this stuff away because it's precious information. And I don't want other people contacting these Gen Z audiences that I would like to talk to. But to be honest, there is so much research that needs to be done and analyzing all of this data that it's kind of like it's going to be a very long journey for us. And it's, even just this quick brief podcast episode, as I said, barely skims the surface. It's really just another way of getting to know all of ourselves better, because again, when it all comes down to it, we're all here on this earth together. And I feel like it's a lot better for everyone if we were to try to understand other perspectives a little easier than maybe just try to muscle our own way and views across. But it's a good segue into this last key insight, which is only 15% of Gen Zs said that they feel represented in advertising that they see. And so they feel like they're not being talked to. And so that was a big takeaway because they are, again, literally the future of this world. And so if we're not dedicating all of our businesses in at least some way recognizing that and trying to say, like, what would you like? This is your world that we're going to be handing over to you. What do you want from us, and what do you want from the world, and how can we help you, kind of thing. Then that's definitely a conversation I recommend everyone be looking into. But it's tricky because this research also says that traditional brands are going to have not very much success, possibly because 16%, they're 16% less likely to want this of brands. So meaning that they don't, it would have to be really organic, them coming to you. So from what I am gathering from this, the fact that it says just 15% of Gen Z say they feel represented in the advertising they see, meaning brands need to catch up. Traditional brands will have little success here, with Gen Zs being 16% less likely to want this of brands, preferring instead those that are young, trendy, or funny. So again, it has to, and I mean, that is kind of, it sounds a little negative there, a little pessimistic there. So to me, the way that I interpret that is they don't want to be tricked into being represented. They honestly want that to be genuine and authentic.
Man, it is, I want to say that it is like one of the hardest things, like when you're trying to understand everything and like all these generations are, it's just so, it feels like it's so complicated, but it's not, it's what you need to like look at their needs and like, what do they want? What do they truly care about? Like, what do they want to see in this world? And I think it's just like transforming from looking at me and looking at we, like looking at everybody else. And I don't know. I mean, it's just, it is very complicated. It is.
If anything, that this all tells me, and it's kind of something that I've learned along the lines, but I feel, and it sounds so easy, but it's like a hard concept for businesses to understand, is you can't, maybe there was a time back when, sometime, where you could tell people what they wanted. And, you know, before people realized what advertising really was and how effective it was in certain cases. But that logic, you cannot apply that anymore. You can't really convince a lot of people, especially this younger generation, of that you are what they need. You literally have to find out what they need and then be that. And so that obviously is pivoting, that's changing, you know, direction a little bit. But if the last year and a half has proven anything, it's that, you know, we all need to be able to do this anyway. So, well, a little longer than I anticipated. And this is just the first page. I'm telling you, this is, I'll send you the link where you guys can find it. Thank you so much, Mackenzie. You guys are going to be seeing her more. She's going to be, like I said, co-hosting some of this podcast with me. Some days she'll be doing an episode for the business scene herself. But thank you so much, Mackenzie, for agreeing to this. And I can't wait to hear all of your business news and updates in the future. Are you excited?
Yes, I'm super excited.
All right. Well, this is a little longer than normal, but hopefully some great content for you guys. If you haven't already, make sure you are following this podcast, The Tulsa Scene, that you are subscribed on YouTube, that you're sharing our stuff, liking our stuff, and of course, sending us any comments or questions or any kind of concerns that you have or things that you want to see. If you want to be a guest, we'd love it. Email me at bharlow@verifiednews.network. You can check out more about our network at verifiednews.network. We got some really exciting news in the pipelines, and I think that about covers it.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next time here for your source for all things connected to the Tulsa business scene.